Hi, and welcome to another episode of ECCB Connects, a program produced by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you. At the heart of every stable economy lies a foundation built on data, rigorous analysis, and forward-thinking research. As the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank continues to navigate a complex regional and global financial landscape, the strength of our analytical core has never been more critical. When we return, we're sitting down with Dr. Dalano DaSouza, the new director of our Research, Statistics and Data Analytics Department. We'll discuss his journey back to the ECCB and how he plans to leverage data to drive economic stability and growth across our member territories.
ECCB Connects now has a WhatsApp channel. Follow us and stay in the loop with our latest videos, photos, and updates. It's simple. Just search for ECCB Connects in your WhatsApp Updates tab and get connected with all things ECCB.
They say the best journeys lead you home. And today we're thrilled to welcome home and have a sit down with Dr. Dalano DaSouza, the new director of the Research, Statistics and Data Analytics Department. We're going to speak with him about what brought him back to the ECCB and how he intends to transform data to serve the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Dalano, welcome to ECCB Connect.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Dalano, you walked through these doors in 2018 as an intern, a summer intern. Tell us what that experience was like in 2018 and how that led to your return to the ECCB.
Well, my journey is an interesting one. At the time when I came as an intern, it was a very difficult decision for me. At the time I was living in Barbados, I was actually finance manager of a company in Barbados. And so when I had conversation with my friends and even my colleagues at that company, I said I was resigning to pursue an internship. This is me leaving as a finance manager, as a manager in the company, and say, well, I quit in because I'm going to go and pursue an internship at the ECCB. Of course, I was met with, the usual skeptical looks. And because people are like, what? This is a big step. And some persons, of course, saw it as a step back. But of course, at the time, I was wrapping up my doctoral research, my doctoral work. And it had been a dream of mine to pursue some time at the ECCB. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I decided that I would take it. Of course, it came after some sleepless nights, but I did decide to take on that opportunity. So I resigned from my full-time job and came here for a 3-month internship. But when I came, I was met with open arms. It was a great experience. I was put in the research department, as you know, in the technical unit. As it was then, we worked on several reports. We focused a lot on financial stability. I produced some research papers, a policy brief, and so the experience was great, good mentorship. I met a lot of colleagues as well. And so my experience at the Central Bank during that internship period was amazing. And I was sad to leave at the end, but that's the way it goes sometimes when you make a leap of faith of that nature.
So looking back at your younger self, would you have imagined that you would have returned to the ECCB to actually lead the unit that you were interning in?
I didn't think of that, no. I could not have imagined that. I had hoped that I would return one day in some capacity. At the time when I left, there wasn't any space. There wasn't any vacancy available for me to extend beyond the internship. And so that came as a source of disappointment, particularly having resigned from my job. But thereafter, I took a break, a couple months, and then I went back to St. Vincent, which is where I'm from, and I got a job as the country manager for a microfinance company. So I did that for a while. So I did not know that I would be back here, but it had been a sort of ambition of mine to come back. Whether coming back to lead is another situation altogether.
Dalano, you spoke about your experience in finance, leading companies, but you've also done some work in academia. You've also lectured and been a professor at St. George's University and University of the West Indies. How has that experience in the classroom helped to prepare you now with the data-driven policies that we have here at the ECCB?
Well, yes. I started lecturing at UWI in 2020. and that was immediately after the winding up of 𝐿IAT. At that time, I was at 𝐿IAT in finance there. It came as an opportunity for me. I had been in academia. I had taught some courses, tutorials, for example, while I was pursuing my PhD. And so when the opportunity came about, I took it, and I moved back to Barbados from Antigua to take up that position. Now, over the years, there's been some challenges. I mean, imagine, the generation of students now at university is significantly different from, I guess, when you and I were there. And so the needs and your approach to teaching has had to change. I've worked with diverse students, from all over the region, from different spheres of life. And so it really allowed me to sort of tailor my skills to be able to get across the different students, to make them understand theories, to make them understand concepts, and importantly, mentoring as well. I think in the current role where I sit now, I think the mentoring aspect is very important. Apart from the knowledge in terms of academia, in terms of methodology, in terms of research, in terms of just being in academia, navigating academia generally, I think what the research department needs now, or the RSDAD needs now, is mentorship. It needs guidance. It needs clarity. It needs to see that it can grow beyond where we are now and incorporate better practices in terms of data collection, data management, data analytics. And that's something I'm particularly excited about, building out the data analytics function within the department. So it's really about using the skills, the connections, the knowledge that I have to advance the department now as I lead it.
Dalano, your plans are quite ambitious, but certainly within your reach. And I'm happy that you spoke about tailoring. What are some of your plans as it relates to data modernization and democratizing data so that it's a bit more palatable to the ordinary citizens of the ECCU?
Well, right now, RSDAD does a lot of work in terms of data, in terms of reporting, in terms of data collection statistics. Unfortunately, we haven't been doing the best job at like, as you put it, democratizing this information. It's on our website. It is in table form. It's in, it's not very palatable, as you put it. And so we are working right now in terms of modernizing our approach to our reports, for example, changing the look and feel of our report, make them more engaging, make them more appealing to persons of different walks of life to be able to understand the work we're doing. I think that's an important element as well. Another element is to reach them where they are. A lot of persons are on social media. A lot of persons are not using the traditional media as we know it. And so we have to tailor our approach in terms of this information and putting it out to the public, whether it be in the form of social media posts, whether it be in form of reels, TikTok videos, short TikTok videos, for example. And so we have to get there. But before we get there, we have to make sure that our data collection practices are improved so that we are streamlined in that way. So there's a lot that needs to be done, but communication is an important part. And so we have to balance that push, because what we don't want is to have inaccurate data out there. So we have to make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect and enhance the integrity of our data, and then putting it out to the public. So those are important elements of the work that we want to do as well. And as well as getting into new frontiers. Our central bank has the potential to catch up to some of the other central banks in terms of the work we do in terms of consumer sentiment indexes and so on. There's a lot of work that can be done, and we are working at devising plans to get to the level of some of our regional counterparts. And I think those are important things that we have to pursue.
As we speak about the future, one of the bank's main agenda is the big push. How can we double the size of the regional economy by 2030? How important is the work of RSDAD in helping us to accomplish this goal?
So I'm glad you asked that question. We actually just completed our research agenda for 2026 into 2027, and featured heavily in this research agenda is the big push. Of course, we recognize it's a very ambitious goal to double the size of GDP. Of course, the governor would say that we've done it before in the early years of the union, and we've seen other examples of other countries that have been able to achieve this. Now, in our case, we're a small, open economy, so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think particularly we need to be data-driven in terms of our decision-making, in terms of our policy-making processes, and we're not quite there yet. So that's important. So our aim is to support that analytical work, that economic research work, that policy analysis that is required to help our governments navigate this turbulent time and chart a path towards sustainable development. So I see our role as, for example, we've identified in the big push several theaters of transformation that we want to pursue. Logistics and trade, for example, tourism, and when we talk about tourism, we're not just talking about volume, we're also talking about tourism spend. So our mission is to support the agenda by doing the necessary research that, for example, some of the governments don't have the capacity to do. And so we're working at crafting a research agenda, and now we've done so, that is going to allow us to support our regional government. Because at the end of the day, as we know, the ECCB doesn't make policy decisions on behalf of the governments. We make recommendations, we help them strategically when it comes to certain initiatives, but ultimately the fiscal and the macro decisions to rest with the government, and we only support. So our job is to give them the research and the support that they need to make credible decisions towards achieving the big push.
Dalano, we're at the end of the program. We're wrapping up the program. I'll take this opportunity to allow you to speak to some of the students who are at universities now, persons who have career aspirations, whether it is in finance and central banking, using your own journey as a bit of a strategic map for them.
Well, I don't like to speak about myself too much, but I would just encourage any young person now to stay the course, particularly in the field of economics. I mean, coming from being a lecturer in economics at UWI, we've realized that our economics numbers are dwindling in terms of students. Persons are seeing it as a difficult course. Persons are seeing it as heavily quantitative, mathematical based, and we know some of the challenges we have in terms of our mathematics performance in the region. So a lot of persons are shying away from economics. A lot of persons are shying away from finance, and we have to change that. So I would say to them directly that they have to stay the course. There is a lot of value in terms of what we do. There is a need for it in the region. We don't have enough economists coming through the ranks, and so we have a situation where a lot of our economists are, as you would put it, they're aging out, but they're still performing a lot of important consultancy roles, and so because we don't necessarily have the younger cohort who are following on with that type of work, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean. And so that's a challenge for us. So I would encourage them to explore the option, and even if it's not in economics, I would encourage them to stay the course, to recognize that you have to make important decisions in terms of your future. You have to think about your future. We're living in a time of instant gratification, for example, where hard work, there is this perception that there are substitutes for hard work. And we've heard from we were growing up that there's no substitute for hard work. And so I would want that to be a guiding principle for anyone coming up, that there's no substitute for hard work. You have to put in the time. You have to invest in your craft. This is something I tell my economists now. You have to invest in your craft, because at the end of the day, this is your bread and butter as an economist, and you want to be the best that you are. And so that when persons refer to you, they only have good things to say about your skills, about your personality, about your characteristics, and that's important. So stay the course, invest in yourself and your craft, and recognize that there's no substitute for hard work.
Dalano, thank you for sitting down with us today to have this very important conversation. We wish you the best in all of your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
And now for this week's financial tip.
Understand the difference between niceties and necessities, and focus on your needs rather than your wants. Be willing to forego the things you really don't need.
We have come to the end of this week's episode and season 30 of ECCB Connects. We spoke with Dalano about his journey as an intern at the ECCB, then through academia, and now as the Director of Research, Statistics and Data Analytics. He spoke about his plans for the department and the role the department can play in advancing the bank's Big Push agenda. He also laid out his plans to modernize the department's data collection and democratize data to make it more accessible to the citizens of the ECCU. Thank you for watching, and be sure to join us in May when we will be back with new and informative episodes of ECCB Connects. While we're on break, be sure to stay connected with us through our website and social media platforms. See you in May as we continue to share with you who we are, what we do, and how we serve you.